네, 여러분.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you to the Smart Green City International Standardization Forum. My name is Kim Dae, and I will lead you through this forum. This forum is hosted by K-Water, and we will be listening to the views of experts on ways for establishing international standards related to smart green cities, which is a global trend today in urban development. Also, the K-Water's Smart Green City research results will be shared to establish a smart green city model, and I hope that this will contribute to further promoting the cooperation for building smart cities. We have presentations and a panel discussion prepared, so I ask you to stay until the very end of the forum. Before we begin, I would like to briefly introduce to you the participants. First of all, Director Lee Jun-gun of K-Water, he is here with us today, and also Chairman Bernard Gindros. He is joining us online. He is the chairman of ISO TC 268. Also, Director Colin Clinch of Iwra is with us, and Dr. Park Chang-seok of KEI is joining us. Thank you very much. Also, Dr. Ojueyong, who is the director of the Center for Future City of K-Water, is here with us. Let me now introduce the participants. First of all, Professor Chung Yong-kyu of Ulji University. He will be the moderator of the panel discussion. Next, Chief Scientist BU1 of National Smart City Joint Lab is joining us online. Also, Professor Yoshiaki Ichiwaka of Tama University is joining us. And we are also joined by Professor Kwon Yongsan of Seoul National University is joining us here at the venue. And also Mr. Kim Han-sik, who's a team leader of Smart City of the Korean Agency for Technology and Standards, is with us today. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Next, I would like to invite Executive Director Lee Jun-gun of K-Water for his opening remarks. Please greet him with a big round of applause.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I am Lee Jun-gun, Executive Director of K-Water's Green Infrastructure Management Division. Due to COVID-19, we are holding this forum online, and we have overseas speakers joining us virtually at late hours in their respective time zones. I would like to express my gratitude to ISO TC 260 Chairman Bernard Gindores, IWRA Executive Director Colin Clinch, Dr. BU1, and Professor Yoshiaki Ichikawa for attending despite the challenging time difference. In addition, I would like to express my gratitude to Professor Chung Yong-kyu of Ulji University, Professor Kwon Yong-sang of Seoul National University, Dr. Park Chang-seok of the Korea Environment Institute, and team leader Kim Han-sik of the Korea Agency for Technology and Standards for attending as domestic experts. Complex disasters caused by climate change have occurred on all continents in recent years, and I know that many discussions and attempts are being made to solve and prevent these issues beforehand. In this situation, smart green cities are expected to utilize fourth industrial revolution technologies to solve problems with existing cities, as well as contain and absorb carbon emissions based on efficient production and management of energy, systematic green space planning, and creation to serve as the emerging alternative to solving the global climate change challenge. For the global dissemination and to secure implementation of such smart green city technologies, we are here today at this forum to discuss how to achieve standardization and set the way forward, making this event all the more meaningful. Furthermore, we have global challenges that requires our immediate attention, and I believe we can lay the foundation for solving these challenges that cannot be postponed any longer. We promise to do our best to apply the various views and conclusions derived from the discussions amongst the experts at today's forum to K-Water's City Development Project, as well as disseminate the ideas to the Global Smart Green City Establishment Project. And with that, let me conclude my remarks. Thank you very much.
네, 말씀
Yes, thank you very much.
기후
We need to respond to the climate crises and the climate challenges, and today will serve as a fundamental foundation to resolve the problem. So let us now move on to the first presentation.
268에
And first of all, I would like to invite Chairman Bernard Gindros of the ISO TC 268. He will talk about the role of ISO TC 268 and standards establishment status. Please greet him with a big round of applause.
Thank you very much. Let me just share my screen. Okay, can you see my... Yes. Okay, so good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for inviting me to this very interesting and important World Smart City Expo, but especially for this Smart Green City International Standardization Forum. I would like to give you very quickly an overview of the activities of ISO TC 268. And about first point is about why cities. Cities cover less than 3% of the land on Earth, but produce more than 70% of the global greenhouse gas emission. More than 50% of the worldwide population is living in cities, and the projection shows that 70% will live in cities by 2050. And if we are also projecting using the UN World Urbanization Prospect, we can see that by 2030, we will have 110 big cities with more than 5 million inhabitants, and 2/3 about them will have more than 10 million inhabitants. These mega cities, which will also bring some additional challenges to cities. So a lot of issues will occur there. There are lots of challenges for cities, but we need to act now. Action should start now if we want all to live in decent condition, to have a good quality of life, sufficient resources for use for all, and especially also to be able to satisfy any kind of situation and context around the world. We need to totally rethink urban planning, considering demographic challenges, anticipate also climate change, severe impacts through adaptation strategies, etc. And in this context, greening cities is a very relevant response to all these different challenges. So today, the challenges the cities are facing are extremely severe, extremely difficult, but they also offer great opportunities. But we need for that to have a long-term vision and commitment, to engage, to have a holistic approach, to set priorities, to develop our activities through integrated planning, to also have citizens' engagement, and to have a culture of results and communication. And this is exactly where standardization could definitely support all these type of initiative, from best practice and innovative models and partnership to support any challenges we have seen before, such as adaptation to climate change, quality of life, guidelines, new business model, dissemination, benchmarking and bench learning, and through digitalization. Replication and scaling up will be key to promote all these type of change around the world. And for getting this vision and to have a strong commitment, decision-making, we need a very strong political engagement and citizens' engagement for setting the priorities. We need then to agree on strategies with objectives and to set some roadmaps with targets. And for this, the definition of targets with performance indicators are essential if we want to be able to progress. Implementation and culture of results is the next set of big measures. And we need to ensure a good monitoring, monitoring, evaluation against planned targets. This is what we also have to include in the integrated and cross-sectoral approach with a culture of results and communication with citizens to ensure their engagement. With this in mind, we can feed some benchmarking, but also bench learning approaches. This is exactly what the different activities in standardization could bring, because standards could drive the change. Standards could accelerate this transformation of cities and communities, especially because they make benchmarking and bench learning effective and bring trust and confidence among all different categories of stakeholders. And this is again exactly what the ISO Technical Committee 268, Sustainable Cities and Communities, is doing. We are developing standards in support of all different integrated approach towards sustainable development for cities and communities. We gather members from 70 countries around the world, and we contribute in a significant manner to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Our approach is based on different phases. As we said before, we need to have a long-term vision. We need then to agree on strategies and to set roadmaps with targets. And this needs a strong political commitment and citizens' engagement, as said before. And then we enter in the implementation phase, where we need to have this culture of improvement, always trying to optimize our resources and activities towards meeting ambitious targets. What we developed also within the ISO TC 268 is a quality management system that allow and support throughout the whole process, all the different phases, the decision makers, the planners, but also mayors and the municipality council in cities. This is a very important standards that pave the way to all the different development. So just to give you a very quick overview about how ISO TC 268 contribute to making these challenges possible for cities. ISO TC 268 develops standards from vision to implementation, as I said before. All these phases are considered. And we have this major ISO 37101 management system that will ensure the coherence and the robust sustainable urban development through citizens' engagement with a culture of results. ISO TC 268 also paves the way to cities' transformation by setting baseline and strategic targets with clear roadmap and KPIs. And we are engaged in strong and permanent cooperation with our colleagues from IEC and ITU in support of cities and communities in their journey towards smarter and sustainability. This is extremely important for giving the right set of standards or tools to cities for supporting them in this journey and in this transformation. In conclusion, I would like to remind that greening cities is a very relevant solution towards climate change mitigation, but also especially towards climate change adaptation. We have seen these recent days, all the catastrophic extreme weather patterns. There is definitely a need to climate change adaptation measures. Efficient and rational use of resources is also a very good benefit from greening cities, as well as bringing a higher quality of life, creating new jobs and businesses. And we have many others direct benefits for all and for the earth. Standards are key enabler to accelerate this transformation because they bring trust and confidence, and thus citizens and all stakeholders' acceptance and engagement. They also support confidence in decision-making thanks to benchmarking of best practice, robust technical reference and guidance, and management system that will guide the decision-maker throughout his or her decision process. Standards are also key because they contribute to de-risking investment thanks to alignment of understanding among all stakeholders, and also thanks to setting reference framework as solutions, results-oriented engagement. And finally, I would like to also underline that thanks to the strengthened cooperation between the three different SDOs, IEC, ISO, and ITU, we are working all together for the benefit of cities and communities to fully support them, but also in full support of sustainable development goals. If you have any initiative, any ideas, any proposition for developing new standards that could definitely contribute to supporting cities in this very challenging but interesting and ambitious journey, please contact your national standardization body or address directly some comment, some proposition, some ideas to ISO TC 268. I remain at your disposal for any further thoughts, ideas, and suggestions. Thank you very much. I wish all of you a very fruitful event. Thank you to the organizers, and thank you to the chair.
Thank you. 네, 고맙습니다.
Yes, thank you very much. We just heard from Chairman Bernard Gindros, who gave a very insightful presentation.
Next, we would like to move on to the presentation by Executive Director Colin Clinch of IWRA on Smartwater City Certification Project. Please welcome him with a big round of applause.
Thank you very much. Good morning to you all. As you heard, my name's Colin Clinch. I'm the Executive Director of the International Water Resources Association. IWRA is a non-profit, non-governmental knowledge-sharing organization that was set up 50 years ago this year. We connect professionals, students, individuals, and institutions who are connected with the sustainable use of the world's water resources. So first of all, I'd like to thank the organizers for inviting IWRA to participate in this event. I'm actually joining you from Lisbon in Portugal, so it's about 2 a.m. here, so please forgive me if I'm a bit tired and make some mistakes as I make my presentation, but please bear with me. IWRA and K-Water have a well-established collaboration that goes back several years, and it's always a pleasure and a great honor to participate in events organized by our K-Water colleagues. In this presentation, I will speak about the Smart Water Cities project that we're undertaking together, along with the Asia Water Council. I'll refer to the reasons for this project and the work that we're currently undertaking, as well as what's happening in the coming few months. So the goal of this project is to develop a global standard and certification scheme for smart water cities around the world. The global standard and certification scheme will serve to examine and compare the management of urban water resources in different existing cities around the world, and also in future cities that are currently being planned, such as Busan Eco-Delta City in South Korea. So why is this project important and necessary? As we've heard from Bernard, over 50% of the world's population today live in urban areas. Cities are also the hubs of innovation and creativity. They are the center of worldwide economic growth, trade and finance exchanges, communication, and logistics. Cities are the axes of cultural influence, so they drive transformation and reforms in all domains. But the growth of cities also, as we heard in the previous presentation, pose unparalleled challenges. Cities are currently facing large difficulties in many different areas of urban life, such as the management of resources, including land, water, and energy. They are at the center of many environmental disasters as well, such as heat waves, floods, cyclones, typhoons. Cities are also singled out as places of social exclusion and inequality, so the challenges of urbanization are quite significant. Information and communication technologies, ICT, have shown their potential to improve livelihoods and well-being in all sectors of urban life, in energy, in mobility, in public services. They can help to broaden access to knowledge and education, improve safety, enhance health and well-being, and so on. The use of ICT is key for what has come to be known as smart and sustainable cities. However, while the concept of smart cities has been employed in several sectors, such as transport, energy, and education, to refer to the use of ICT in cities, we know far less well about what a smart water city would be and how smart applies to the management of water in cities. So one of the main objectives of our project has been to examine the concept of smart water cities. To do so, our project has analyzed first the role of water, the role that water has in a city. I'm sure, as you're all aware, water helps to meet essential human needs such as drinking water and sanitation, provision for all the inhabitants of a city. And meeting these needs clearly is crucial for human well-being and socioeconomic development. But water also serves other functions that are equally important. It can regulate the temperature of urban surroundings, and it transforms and creates geographical features that are enjoyed and used by the inhabitants of those cities. A more complete understanding of smart water cities needs to consider not only how ICT affects the provision of urban water services, but also how they may have an impact on urban water resources, how they help dealing with floods and droughts and other disasters, how they can help urban water planning, and how they facilitate the coexistence of people with nature. So in short, we need to examine how water infrastructure creates the conditions for human, animal, and plant life to thrive in an urban environment. In this sense, a smart water city is not only a city that uses information technology to provide water services, but it's one that improves urban sustainability and ultimately assures a higher quality of life for residents, thanks to the adoption of these technologies. This is the perspective of international organizations such as the United Nations, and it's certainly the one that we have adopted for this project. But how do you measure the degree of water smartness in a city? And how can we learn to improve urban water sustainability? So we need a series of indicators or key performance indicators, KPIs, to do this. And they can help us to measure the status of a city and can help to identify what needs to be done to improve the present circumstances. The Smart Water Cities project will therefore develop a series of KPIs for smart water cities, and they will be employed to measure and compare smart urban water management in different countries around the world. To reach this goal, this project is divided into 3 parts. The current first part of the project defines what a smart water city is and analyzes existing global standards, indicators, and certification schemes. Doing this is fundamental for the latest stages of the project. So the second stage, which will happen from next year, is looking at measuring impact. And we will define the global standards and KPIs and certification schemes for smart water cities. And then the third part, which will be in 2023, will look at the implementation and testing of a certification scheme in a real-world setting or environment. So the first part of the project, in the first part of the project, we are trying to better understand what a smart water city is, and we've examined in detail the different functions of water in cities. As I discussed earlier, they're essential to human needs, such as drinking water and sanitation, and of course, all the other benefits that I mentioned earlier. A more complete understanding of smart water cities needs to consider not only how information and communication technology affects urban water services provision, but also how technologies may have an impact on urban water resources. So dealing with those disasters like floods and droughts and the effects of urban heat islands and also urban planning. Within the first part of the project, we're also examining a number of existing standards, and you can see a sample of these shown here on the screen. These have been selected for 2 primary reasons. First of all, they are concerned with the local level, and water management is very much about local level issues, although the issues are shared around many places in the world. And they deal with the elements interlinked with the definition of smart water city. So they deal with aspects of ICT or water or sustainability. For each of these global standard schemes, we have examined the categories and the indicators and the metrics that they employ. And all of this information tells us about how these well-established standards operate. We've analyzed and learned about the strengths and weaknesses of each standard. And the lessons learned are, of course, very important for the development of our own smart water city standards and certification development. So in my last slide here, I just want to talk about the final steps for this year. This first part of the project will come to an end, and we'll have a report that comes out of that, including also some case studies, which are illustrative of smart water management in different parts of the world. And we'll continue this collaboration with K-Water and the Asia Water Council in coming couple of years. In the meantime, before these second and third phases begin, I'd like to take the opportunity to invite you to the next IWRA World Water Congress that will be held in the city of Daegu from the 29th of November to the 3rd of December this year. This event brings together researchers, policymakers, and water experts to discuss about all the most relevant topics concerning the management of water resources and the provision of water services around the world, particularly looking at that interface between science and policy. The Smartwater Cities project will feature as one of the special sessions of this Congress. So if you'd like to meet the people who are actually working on the project and find out more about what's going on, you're warmly welcome to come along and attend that event. So once again, we look forward to continuing our good working relationship with K-Water and to future opportunities to tell you about this project and how it's developing. So thank you very much.
네, 발표
Yes, thank you very much for your presentation. Let us now move on to our presentation by our experts from home. First, on the Smart Green City in Korea, we would like to invite Park Chang-seok, Chief Research Fellow of Korea Environment Institute, for his presentation. Please welcome him with a big round of applause.
Yes, as was just introduced, my name is Park Chang-seok from the Korea Environment Institute, and today I will be talking about the Smart Green City in Korea. So I will be talking about the overall policy related to this. The KEI, where I work, researches climate and environment issues. It's a government-sponsored policy research institute. So this is the contents of my presentation. As you can see, I will talk about the background, and then I will go into the Smart Green City project, how we were able to launch the project and what is the details of the project. And then I will talk about the current status of the Smart Green City in Korea. And then last but not least, I will talk about future development. So let's go into the background. As you well know, around the world, cities account for only 2% of the world's land area, but 55% of the world population resides in cities. And cities account for 80% of the GDP. Many economic activities are focused in cities, and that leads to intensive energy consumption, 66%, and carbon emissions of 75%. We believe the figures will go up, and we do believe that the population will increase from 55% to 68% in the urban areas. So we need the cities to change in a more environment-friendly manner. If not, we will not be able to tackle and solve the environmental issues around the world. So we can see increase of natural disasters around the world and due to climate change. And in the case of the Republic of Korea as well, there has been heat waves and also extreme weather conditions in winter, very cold winters. And such extreme weather conditions are expected to increase by 1.8 folds. Their living environment pollution is becoming increasingly serious. Environmental pollutants such as waste and fine dust are increasingly intensifying. In Korea, as of 2015, 6.1 billion paper cups were used. And also in 2017, the amount of plastic bags used in Korea was 220 billion. As you can see, the disposable goods are an issue that we have to tackle. We have to go towards a more circular economy. Also, there is a decline of biodiversity and natural space being witnessed. As you know, the habitats are being disrupted. And starting from 1985, we have been tracking the biodiversity and natural spaces, and we were able to find that the waters and the agricultural land and the natural spaces are continuously declining. As you can see here, there's a farmland, forest land, and rivers, which are showing a declining tendency here. And so we have been working together, the citizens, the governments, private sector, to restore the natural spaces, for example, the wetlands and the rivers, and we have seen slight improvement as shown in this graph. Now, in 2020, the Korean New Deal was announced, and this was a pan-national plan for, or strategy for, a great transformation. The goal of the Korean New Deal is to transform the economy from a fast follower to a leader, from a carbon-dependent economy to a green economy, with the society going to a more inclusive one. So we have 2+1 policies. There is a Korean New Deal, under which there's a Digital New Deal and the Green New Deal. And also, there can be many social issues arising in this process, so we are envisioning the strengthening of a safety net to deal with these issues. We will go into this more in detail during the discussion, but the smart green city is part of the Green New Deal. I just mentioned this before, but there are 3 main projects under the Smart Green City project. The first is turning public facilities into zero energy buildings. So in terms of the public buildings, we want to enhance energy efficiency. We want to make the school buildings more environment friendly. So we want to build green smart school buildings. And also, we want to restore the terrestrial, marine, and urban ecosystems. There will be a focus on smart green city development in this light. And last but not least, we want to build a management system for clean and safe water. So let's take a look at the smart green city projects. I will be very brief here. The Smart Green City's vision is to implement a sustainable future environment city where humans and nature can coexist. And number 11 of the SDG is sustainable cities and communities, and that is in line with our vision. There are 3 strategic goals. First is to respond to climate change. As you know, the risks of climate change is increasing, so we want to be able to effectively respond. And number 2 is inclusiveness. Now, there are the more vulnerable in our society who has to receive more protection with the social safety net. And so we need to strengthen inclusiveness through policy measures. And last but not least, we want to focus on environmental quality. Korea has experienced extreme economic development within a short period of time, but that has hurt the natural environment. And so we want to restore the quality of our environment. And for this, the local governments, the local autonomous entities will be working on solutions. Well, they are to present the solutions based on a business plan, and after the plan is accepted, then the central administrative agencies will serve as platforms for financial support. The financial support will come from the central government, and the agencies will serve as a platform for innovation and development. So this is the project approach. There is largely 4 categories for the Smart Green project. The first is strengthening the urban resilience. And the projects under urban resilience would be climate resilience, projects for water circulation, and projects for water safety and security. Number 2, there is a low emission projects, for example, the future car project and the resource circulation projects. Number 3, there is ecological restoration category, under which we will focus on ecological restoration and also providing a resting space in nature. Last but not least, there is a living environment category, which focuses on a clean atmosphere and environmental education and improving the living environment. This is the project concept. Now, as you know, the projects will be organically linked together in an integrated manner so that we can enjoy synergy effects. So that will be how the projects will be designed. And for example, we want water circulation being promoted. The rainwater will be retained to improve the soundness of the ecological system. And the retained water will be reused and recycled. And so it's linked with another project carried carried out by another agency for building forests. As you can see, there are different projects integrated together. This is the project concept. And then we have come up with two types of smart green city projects. Well, the first was a project solving type, and another is a comprehensive leading type or a preemptive approach type. So there were these two different types of smart green city projects that we carried out, and 25 regions are to be selected by dividing into 20 problem-solving types and 5 general lead types. And as you can see, there is the project area selection criteria. To select the projects that will be implemented, we actually hosted a contest for selecting the project target areas, and also we wanted to support the local entities to prepare for the project, so we came up with support groups. Let me now go into the status of the Smart Green City in Korea. Now, based on the plan that I mentioned in 2020, 25 regions were selected according to 20 different problem-solving types and 5 comprehensive leading types. So as you can see, there were many different cities that were selected to be part of the projects, and the local autonomous governments are currently initiating these projects. Well, the first project case that I would like to introduce to you is one of the more notable projects. One is related to resilience. Now, in order to improve the air quality and improve resilience, this project focused on the climate change response and clean air promotion. And so as you can see here, there was an aim to improve the air quality by installing smart clean bus shelters, to install cooling and clean roads. And also there was another infrastructure project for rain reutilization. So there was rainwater reservoir installed. And next is the project for low emission. And we built electric vehicle charging infrastructures. And also there was underground reclamation type waste collection system being built as part of the project. And the vehicles will be utilizing the EV charging infrastructure that you see on the left. And next is the project related to ecological restoration. Well, environmental education, I mentioned about that. We wanted to build facilities for that, and we wanted to build facilities for ecological restoration under this project in order to promote biodiversity. Last but not least, there is a project for living environment. First of all, the air purification bus stop. When people arrive at the bus stop, there is a sensor that identifies the change in the air to make the air more clean and pure. And also, on the right, you will see the Smart Environment Patrol System, which utilizes IoT. So IoT-based real-time information is collected, and heat or fine dust and odor-related information is collected, and a warning system is operated. So let's now talk about the future development or the future direction. As I mentioned before, we focus on projects that is in line with the goal number 11, sustainable cities and communities of the SDG. And also we want to actively come up with measures to respond to the issues of climate change. So we will continuously work on these relevant projects. And as we pursue these projects, we also want to identify the good models for smart cities, standardize them, so that these city models can be spread throughout Korea, but also exported and shared with other cities around the world. And for that, I do believe that standards are needed. We need more research on standardization. Standardization guidelines need to be looked into and worked on. And this will help us respond to climate change and improve the environment. Thank you very much. Yes, thank you very much. So we just heard from Professor Park.
Next, we would like to now invite Director Ojueyong of Center for Future City of K-Water on KPIs of Busan Eco Delta Smart City. A big virtual round of applause, please.
예, 안녕하세요. 수자원공사
Hello, everyone. I am Ojueyong, Director of the Center for Future City at K-Water, as introduced. And today I would like to talk about the Busan Eco Delta City and on the KPIs of the Eco Delta Smart City. In terms of my presentation, I just want to give you a brief introduction of my organization, K-Water, and some more information on smart cities, and last but not least, on Busan Eco Delta Smart City. First, on K-Water, it was established in 1967, and in 1974, it started its development for industrial complexes as well as new cities that sprung up with the National Industrial Complex. And we began our water supply business in 1988. And starting from 2013, we introduced a smart new management system or regime where we've began our regeneration of waterfront businesses. In 2015, we co-organized the 7th World Water Forum. And in 2017, we celebrated our 50th anniversary. This map indicates Busan Eco Delta City in the southern part of the Korean Peninsula. And in addition to that, we have Siwa MTV and Songsan Green City, which is quite close to Seoul metropolitan city, and we have Gumi, as well as Puyeo and Kwan, where our waterfront businesses are currently underway. Cities, due to urbanization and due to economic activities, we're seeing housing challenges and a gap in socioeconomic gap. As well as challenges with regard to climate and transportation. And as mentioned, a lot of the population, well, a majority of the population are living in 2% of the entire territory, and we're seeing congestion, and that is leading to economic losses, and the losses are quite significant. So the climate disasters know no borders, and it is polluting our streams, our rivers, and our water resources. The disasters are growing in magnitude and scale, and we're seeing a widening gap of inequality. We're seeing an unjust society, and those that are marginalized are further being alienated. In 2020, we can say that we've entered into a new revolution era, which is basically Industry 4.0 or the fourth industrial revolution. AI, cloud, IoT, blockchain, and the likes are leading to and driving a digital transformation. And we're seeing Kakao, we are seeing banks, or internet-only banks, and various facial and biological recognition technologies that are being used, which is leading to no borders amongst industries. As you know, we're living in the era of 100-year life expectancy. So welfare, jobs, basic income guarantee are some of the areas where we need policy alternatives. So we now are living in a new climate era, and therefore, countries around the world need to find the right response. And at such a juncture, an inclusive smart city is something that's most necessary. So then what is an inclusive smart city. It offers fair opportunities to all human beings, and it enables a sustainable coexistence of nature and humans. And the fourth industrial revolution technologies will improve the quality of life of residents. So these are the three objectives or goals of the inclusive smart city. And let me now move on to a brief introduction on Busan Eco Delta Smart City. The area is approximately 11.8 million kilometers, and the area that's colored is the Smart City National Pilot Project that began in 2018 as a pilot city project. And the area is approximately 2.8 square kilometers. Or 2.8 million square meters. And the population is planned to be at 75,000. And 2028, we will be completing the construction. And in the case of the smart village, is approximately 0.02 square kilometers, where 56 households will be residing. And construction is to be completed by the end of this year. So along with various innovative projects, we're going to also run a living lab to reflect the needs and the feedback of the residents. So then, the fourth industrial revolution technology, as you can see here on this slide, offers inclusive growth as well as fair opportunities to all citizens. Not only that, in terms of culture, education, environment, and public safety, it will enhance the quality of life in all of these fronts. These are some indicators that we particularly focused on. So the overarching keyword was people, nature, and technology for all of our indicators. So it was about a city where people would enjoy a work and life balance. So in other words, it was about introducing a people-centered society and also a city where people and nature coexist. And fourth industrial revolution technologies that would help better the lives of citizens. So these are the three key words of our indicators. And what we had was derive two objectives, two each for each of these key words, a total of 6 objectives. And these are the 6 objectives. People, technology, and nature, as mentioned. Under these 3 keywords, we brought together 6 quantitative objectives. In the case of health, it has 8 indicators, including healthcare, preventative medicine, as well as swift emergency services. In the case of energy, as you can see here on the top right, there are 2 KPIs, or 2 indicators, and it has to do with reducing energy consumption in transportation and construction and utilizing new energy sources. And on the top left, you can see the objective of quality of life, which consists of 5 KPIs, and job, 1 KPI, time and convenience, a total of 6 KPIs. So we established a total of 27 key performance indicators, which are all quantitative. And let me now go into specifics. In the middle, you can see people, technology, and nature, the 3 key words of this project. And then you see in the next circle the 6 quantitative objectives. And these quantitative objectives reflect the global trends. And these 6 quantitative objectives led us to 14 smart city services. So we have 14 service categories. So from the 14 smart city service categories, we've detailed this out to 35 service subcategories. And we also established the key indicators based on these service subcategories. So in total, you can see that we have 27 KPIs, and they all can be measured. They are all quantitative KPIs. So these KPIs were established from the 35 service subcategories. And let me now move on to some examples of the 27 KPIs. I cannot go through each and every one of them in lieu of time, but just a couple so that you can better understand the process of constructing the Busan Eco-Delta City. We want to talk about our objectives, the smart services, and how the KPIs all link together. And this is also has relevance with this year's R&D project. And in order to be certified, in order to receive ISO certification, what we want to do is cater to the universal standards. And therefore, we will introduce the criteria accordingly that will enable us to satisfy the standards. So let me first start off with time and convenience. If we use fourth industrial revolution technologies, we will be able to save 125 hours. This was something that was impossible in urban life, but in the city, this will be possible. First of all, with mobility, we will be able to carve out 60 hours. There's a lot of waiting time in the cities. And especially when it comes to traffic light waiting time, we can reduce this waiting time by 7.5 seconds, which will help increase vehicle speed by 30%, reduce traffic accidents by 46%, and it will also enable citizens to choose the fastest and most optimal public transportation line or route. In the case of the Delta City, it will also utilize shared mobility and on-demand as well as personalized mobility services. It will consider the needs of the citizens and users and will be offering diverse smart services. Next, moving on to public safety. In the area of public safety, we will be able to save 35 hours. For instance, deep learning will come into play. So within a certain period of time, we will be able to understand where a crime takes place, and emergency vehicles will be offered a traffic preemption system so that they could be swiftly at the rescue of any accidents. And drones and devices will be utilized to strengthen public safety. And administrative processes. By simplifying and streamlining administrative processes, we will be able to save 21 hours. AR and AI will help us improve administrative services. And we will be able to save 5 hours in healthcare. As you can see here on the slide, we will be able to improve administration and preliminary diagnosis by reducing waiting time. And through telehealth and healthcare preventative apps, we can better the overall well-being of citizens. EDC, or Busan Eco-Delta City, also focuses on prediction, prevention, personalization, and citizens' participation. So it's based on these 4 Ps when it comes to its healthcare services. Smart parking saves 4 hours for Eco-Delta City. we will be able to reduce 5 minutes in searching the right parking space, and a 30% reduction in navigational path for looking for a parking space is another achievement that we anticipate. This diagram indicates that you can make use of empty parking space, and not only that, by utilizing the platform, you can seek necessary information. So EDC, Eco Delta City, will save 125 hours with time saved in the areas of mobility, public safety, productivity, healthcare, and smart parking. But in addition to that, personal mobility and bicycle-only lanes and last-mile services will also be offered at Busan EDC. This slide indicates two very different pictures. And as mentioned, people-centered is key. And let me now move on to the health element under the people category, or the people keyword. Health is about smart healthcare and prevention and prompt response to social and natural disasters. So the first point I would like to make here is that a walkable city gives you 5 more years. A person who walks 2.5 to 5 hours a week have 3.4 years longer life, and those that walk 5 to 7.5 hours live 4.5 years longer. It also saves time as well as money. Let's say that there is a flood. What happens here is a 6 hours advance alert of a flood is possible, and early response to fire within 5 minutes, and within 25 seconds of an earthquake warning, and a 25% reduction of crime rates eventually saves lives as well as money. Linking this, we're providing with the evacuation route, and we're also looking into various disaster response systems that links to an integrated platform. So citizens will be able to lead longer lives by up to 5 years. And then on quality of life, you can see we have a work and life balance, and particularly enhancing quality of life. And with regard to quality of life, it has to do with reducing housework time by 15%. In the middle, you can see home automation in the works. This is an apartment unit with home automation. We have the AI robot that will be doing the vacuum cleaning, for instance, and mobile and home automation will be connected together so that even outside the home, remotely, you can manage housework. And this will help you save time, and you can also use the time saved for personal career development, for instance. This is on increasing the efficiency of businesses. You can see that if we compare a 48 working hour and a 40 working hour per week situation, you can see that it actually helps increase profit. This indicates a 50 billion won benefit. In other words, you can enjoy work-life balance, and this leads to better efficiency and effectiveness. In other words, you can reduce the working hours per week, but still gain better profitability. And this is on improving quality of life. At Busan Eco Delta City, we want to offer blues and greens within a 300-meter radius. In other words, it would be a 5-minute access. And we want to create an inclusive city with water and green areas from anywhere. And the work and life balance is the environment that we want to create to improve quality of life for all citizens. Next is on new jobs. Currently, we aspire to create 28,000 new jobs. So this is the quantitative target that we have for this objective. You can see the elements that would go into this, which is open municipality, healthcare, water thermal, water energy, and new Korea wave of AR and VR clusters. So it's about supporting startups, and it's about developing smart tech application via R&D investments. So what we want to do is create an innovative business ecosystem. And for Busan, it has a east-west industrial belt. So if we can connect the city with this belt, we believe we will be able to create 28,000 jobs. So this slide indicates the fact that we will be able to create 28,000 jobs, and that various clusters will also be in place to create synergy. Now, moving on to the nature keyword would be this objective of renewable energy. Renewable energy is key, and the KPIs will be focused on reducing energy consumption in transportation and construction and supplying new energy sources. You can see that water thermal, zero energy, hydrogen, and ESS, the energy storage system, and solar energy will be in the works. So electronic vehicles and the BEM system will also be developed to reduce CO2 emissions by 50%. So Eco-Delta City will complete energy sufficiency with 100% consumed energy from renewable sources. And we're also thinking of recycle, and we want to recycle 100% in the city. It's about reusing water, and it's also about waste to energy. So that is the program that we want to operate. This is an example of 100% sewage recycling. So water from households, restaurants, and industrial plants will be reused to fill waterways and water parks, as well as for urban cleaning. In the case of the waterways, 90% will be supplied with such water. And for landscaping, 7%. And for urban cleaning, we're thinking of 2%. These are some of the key areas. So the space that contains technology will guarantee smart life for citizens, and a smart link for sharing, and technology will enable a smart place for everyone. And urban planning for a smart city would also be possible with technology. So once again, people, nature, and technology will be connected together to create smart streets and offer a 5-minute access to blue and green areas for all. And not only that, you can see the 5 innovation clusters. And in terms of platform, we have the digital platform, robot platform, and augmented reality platform that would be developed for the city. Not only that, for Busan Eco-Delta City, we have 10 innovative technologies that will help add value and enhance quality of life. And you can refer to the slide on what these 10 innovative technologies are. The Smart Village is to complete its construction by the end of this year. And just briefly on the Smart Village. This is a living lab where people will be able to experience innovative technologies, but there will be a feedback loop where they would be offering their views and opinions on these technologies, and the residents will be living here for 5 years as a part of a member of the living lab, and their demands will be catered to at the smart village. And just briefly on what it would look like. For a virtuous water cycle, we're going to be utilizing rainwater, and for a clean water supply, you can see that we will have a 3-story system, and LDI will enable us to utilize this water. Solar energy will also be utilized to enhance energy efficiency. So solar energy for warming purposes. And not only that, we will be having a highly dense windows and special installation techniques and engineering. And smart street lighting will be offered. And personalized mobility services will also be possible. This is the smart village for 56 households that would be completed within the year. So with that, let me end my presentation. Thank you very much.
네, 센터장님 발표.
Thank you very much, Director O, for your presentation. Thank you very much to all of our speakers for their insightful presentations. We will now take a 5-minute break, and we will invite our panelists for a discussion session. I'll meet you back in 5 minutes.
계속해서 종합
We'll now go into the panel discussion. Let me introduce the participants. First of all, the moderator is Professor Chung Young-kyu of Ulji University. And we have panelists present here today. First of all, from the National Smart City Joint Labs, Professor Yoshiaki Dr. Bu-won, and from Tama University, we have Professor Yoshiaki Chikawa, and also Professor Kwon Yongsan of Seoul National University, and Dr. Kim Han-sik of the Korea Agency for Technology and Standards. So I will hand over the microphone to the moderator.
Good morning. Welcome to all members. I'd like to thank you for presence today. From now on, we will start the discussion session for Smart Green City. I am chair of this session. My name is Yong-kyu, a professor at the University of Korea and in charge of head of delegation for ISO Smart City in Korea. Before the discussion, I would like to introduce all the panel speakers. The first speaker, Mr. Bu-won from China. Welcome, Professor Won. And the second panel speaker, Mr. Yoshiaki Ichikawa from Japan. And the third speaker, Han-sik Kim, director of CATS. And the last speaker, Professor Kwan from Seoul National University. And now, I will explain how to join the discussion. We have some basic rules. Each speaker has about 10 minutes talk and discussion. On the online session, unfortunately, we don't have any free talk, but I'm trying to discuss together. And if you have any comments, turn on mic freely. And then I will give the talk. Yeah. And now the first speaker, I will invite Mr. Bu-won. He is chief scientist of National Smart City Joint Labs in China and professor Chinese University of Hong Kong. And he will talk and comment ISO activities. And please, Professor Won.
I'm here.
Yes.
Thank you, Professor. Do you hear me? Firstly, good morning, everybody. It's the good chance for me meet the old friends, and also we are working together with TC216 C1 from the chairman, and also C1 chairman, and also you as our co-expert for the Smart City International Standards. But I'm very sorry, I make a mistake for my time. I have a very important meeting. I have to move the city by the train, and now in the high speed train will be a good condition. Yeah, it's a good chance for me to learn together. I have to report to everybody three things. Firstly, as one, as my opening, I very agree. Dr. Bernard said, what is the smart and sustainable city? As my opinion, and the smart city is maybe not just my opinion. I think it's the general opinion. Smart city is not just the final goals, the final. It's just the smart city we're talking about. It is the use the tools or method to the support. We are talking about the eco city, low carbon city, and today's meeting is the green city. And in China, we're talking about the parking city and some blah, 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 very happy city, future city. So I think the smart, maybe the digital city, smart city, we use the ICT technology to support what is the city, urban city planning, destruction, and also construction, and also maintenance. I think it's very good things for, we are talking about it. And also in China, we have the many city three my first international meeting with your side, with Korea. Some exports from the Korea. I remember this. The landing and housing company, and you also the minister. I remember the minister of the land resource and the transportation minister. You export to with our minister, with the urban housing and urban rural development from China. So we are talking about the first project is named from you. Your side talked about me is Yongsan, Songdao. Yeah, I remember Songdao, and with also you have very good company, Samsung and Hyundai, and some company. The first. Yeah. And also we are talking about the name from the Japan, talk about the Ichigawa, told me the Kawasaki city, supported by the Hitachi. I know, and more famous the smart city in Japan, Fujigawa SST, Fujigawa Sustainable Smart Sustainable Town is very famous in China. Many mayors and management to visit this SST, and also EU, Barcelona, and also the Hamabi, and something just like this. And also now in China we have many projects for this one. But I very agree that our chair TC261, what is important is the role, is the standards. We have to use the general and the same word, same methodologies, same difference. What is a smart city, and how about the use of water system, transportation system, energy system, and many solutions and applications to support this city. So I think it's very this meeting, this forum, very important keyword for international standards. We are learning together, especially from the EU, USA, of course, the Indian, Korean, Japan, and also China. We have and now we have the many, maybe 45 exports registered exports in ISO, and also the 40% in IEC smart city system. So I asked him to learn together and also make more and more our issue, our requirements to the international level. And last one, I'm very sorry for maybe it's not so good the VEFA or the international conditions, so I will short the report to you. I hope that the Corona-19 sounds quickly finished and with a face-to-face meeting to everybody. This is my just a short speech to you. I want to finish this one. And then very clearly to everybody, don't worry about it. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Professor. Thank you.
예, 통신 장애가 잠깐 있었습니다.
Yes, I believe that there was some connection issues.
Or the Ichikawa?
Yes, can you hear me? No problem?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yes, very good. Very good.
Okay, thank you very much. So I just first present or introduce you what's going on in our subcommittee 1, because the Bernard not having so much time to describe what's going on here. So I would like to share my screen. I think you can see the web page of TC268 subcommittee 1. Actually, we have a big team under TC268 where the Bernard, Dr. Jindrot chairing, and this is called Subcommittee 1. And the title is Smart Community Infrastructure. And with Dr. Wan and I chaired this Subcommittee 1 since the beginning, almost 9 years. And now the new chairperson, Mr. Kihara, is taking over our role. But still, Dr. Wan and I, joining in the CAG member, Chairman's Advisory Group, so we are giving advice to this new young chairman. Anyway, this group consists of 6 actual working groups. And the first working group is actually I am also convening infrastructure metrics. This is the indicators and metrics how to assess and evaluate the smartness of the infrastructure in terms of smart cities. And number 2 is dealing with the integration of different pieces of infrastructure, like a transportation, power, water. There are so many, infrastructures critical to the cities and communities, and they're dealing with how to integrate them as a kind of a system of systems. This is a very important feature of, I believe, smart cities and communities. And number 3 is going to be separated in a few months as a second subcommittee, but for the moment, they are joining in within the subcommittee 1. They address smart transportation. Of course, the transportation is a very big issue for the cities and communities. So they have already published many standards, and they're going to. And number 4 is led by Dr. Wan. And this is very important feature of a smart city, of course. Data exchange and sharing for smart community infrastructures. The smart cities feature has to be a kind of horizontal integrated data structure itself. Is a kind of foundation of the city. So you may call it a city OS kind of things, and a city database to be shared. And this is very interesting and important agenda, and Dr. Wan and colleagues are leading this working group for, but many other countries are joining in. And number 5 is power plant. And we deal with not only the renewable, but we actually started with a fossil fuel power plant, how to decrease its environmental adverse impact, including the climate change impact as well. And we are going to deal with those power plant issue. Maybe this will be changed its name like energy. But the energy aspect of the smart city is, of course, very important. And the final one, Working Group 6, is, I believe, very much drawing our attention these days, especially disaster reduction. I already listened very interesting report from the previous presentations regarding the disasters like a flood, something like. But in Japan, we are having heavy rains every year. This year, unprecedented amount of rain fall and caused lots of flood and landslides. And we expect that the next year we have even larger kind of event like this. And of course, aside from the rains and storm, earthquake is a big issue, especially in the Pacific Rim areas. And in Japan, we are expecting that the Nankai Trough caused a mega earthquake, which is even bigger than the Great Eastern Earthquake, will occur with the possibility of 70 to 80% within 30 years. So 30 years means I'm 66 years old. So if I'm lucky, I'll be still living in 30 years, but also having a possibility to be hit by a mega earthquake. So we have to prepare for that. And it is, of course, a matter of infrastructure improvement for the cities and communities. So throughout those activities, we have also a very close connection with other technical committees. For example, you do not find any water within those 6 working groups. It is because the ISO TC, another TC, I think it's 2 to 4, the water people is dealing with smart city as well. So we have a very close collaboration with those technical committees, not only the water, but for example, the disaster. TC292, recently having a close liaison each other. They are originally, dealing with disaster and risk and resilience. They published many standards like early warning tsunami system, early warning landslide system kind of things, and also business continuity management system. And so we are closely working together with them, and we approach from technological point of view because they are missing that perspective. So we are working complementary. We provide technology to increase the resilience against disaster, and they provide a management system approach how to deal with those incidents. And so this is expanding, activities within SD1. And maybe this is sufficient as an initial presentation from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Ichikawa. And his contribution to the ISO and so many activities, I think, yeah. And now the next speaker, 김한식 팀장님을 모시도록.
I would like to invite Dr. Kim Han-sik of the Korea Agency for Technology and Standards. He serves as the team leader of the Smart City team, and he is in charge of ISO 268 in Korea. Thank you. Please go ahead. Yes, good morning. My name is Kim Han-sik from the Korea Agency for Technology and Standards. It's a pleasure to be here. I am not a standards expert, but rather I am in charge of coming up with standard-related policies. And I would like to talk about how Korea is pursuing the standardization or preparing for the standards of smart cities. Now, first of all, smart cities, as you well know, utilizes various systems. So you can say that it is an integrated system of systems, and that I agree with that view. In order for the smart cities to continue to advance, we need greater integration, and for this, standards are essential. Standards enable us to secure interoperability and greater performance. It accelerates the performance of the systems, and also standards help the citizens and the cities. It also helps promote competition and innovation. And so, for the successful establishment of smart cities in Korea, we should not just look at the individual technologies or products alone, but we have to think about the scalability and the interoperability. In other words, we need a top-down approach for implementing the systems. That is my personal view. And also, we need to meet the demands of the people in the cities, and for that, we need the right solutions for the smart cities. And integrated approaches based on standardizations will enable us to get rid of the technical barriers and enable us to accommodate the demands and the needs of the people, the citizens, cities, infrastructure, and service operators. We also have to focus on value creation for all of the users and stakeholders. And for that, we need the private sector to participate in the establishment of the standardizations. And for that, we need the right ecosystem for inducing the participation. So if there is active participation of the stakeholders, then I do believe that we will be able to overcome the challenges of establishing standards. We can get rid of the duplications also. So at CATS, the Korea Agency for Technology and Standards, in June of 2019, there was an announcement of the Fourth Industrial Revolution Standard Policy Direction, and Smart City was among what would be discussed here. And we have been working hard to come up with the standards that can be applied to the smart city establishment. For example, we have been making multifaceted efforts to make Korea an advanced country when it comes to the smart city standards, and also to come up with the standards for the integrated systems of smart city. We have been working towards expanding the application of the ISO standards, and so we are actively engaging in ways to further promote the application of the standards. And what I would like to also mention or recommend here to the industry side is that, as you know, in order for us to go towards a global standard-based smart city, we need the bottom-up opinion collection and survey process. For example, like the living labs, I believe that this process is essential. Nowadays, we can see that ICT and various tools are accessible to the citizens, and this is changing the role of citizens and their engagement in the cities. So they are no longer just limited to users, but also the citizens can participate as the providers as well. And so various stakeholders have to participate to provide feedback and raise their voices, which is essential for coming up with good policies and coming up with the right standards. So I do believe that various stakeholders will have to participate in the process to reach an agreement. And standards, once again, is essential for building smart cities. If not, then it will be difficult to make the smart cities continuously sustainable. In that sense, I do believe that today's forum is very meaningful, and I do hope that this kind of venue for exchange of views should continue. Thank you.
네, 감사합니다.
Yes, thank you very much. So we just heard from Dr. Kim about how efforts are being made in establishing and applying standards in Korea.
그 패널
As our last panelist, we have Professor Kwan Yongsan of Seoul National University. As introduced, I am Kwan Yongsan. I'm currently lecturing urban planning at Seoul National University, and I was also a director for a smart city, for the Smart City project. Thank you very much for the inspiring presentations. And what I would like to do here is comment on just briefly on the presentations, and in lieu of time, you do not have to provide a response, but anytime in the future, if we do have the opportunity, I hope we can continue on with the conversation. So this forum is under the title Standardization. So with regard to Chairman Gindros, if I may comment on his presentation.
As it was just mentioned by Mr. Kim Han-shil, well, standards are something that Koreans really like, especially when we plan for cities. What Koreans do first is to come up with the standards. And we have been applying a top-down approach in many cases. Of course, there's controversy surrounding that kind of approach because the paradigm of cities is changing from top-down to bottom-up. In the case of the UK, I understand that there is a approval system for planning. So it's not just coming up with the guideline, but actually having the citizens or the people participate in the process. Now, global standards. Well, we're in the process of coming up with the global standards, and I think that there is a risk of perhaps there is a risk of falling into too much generalization. I had the chance to look at some of the foreign projects, and there were the Indonesian projects and the Vietnam projects. Those countries have a lot of water surrounding the countries, and also there's a lot of rainfall. And the territory itself is very different from the territory here in Korea. Also, I was able to participate in the Mongolian project as well. That is a country with not much water resources. But when we try to apply international standards, especially when it comes to water-related international standards, well, the unique circumstances and conditions of each country have to be taken into account. So not only the general aspects, but also the uniqueness have to be taken into account. That was what came to mind as I participated in these projects. And number two,
is with regard to the second presentation by Executive Director Colin Clinch. And this is relevant to what I've just mentioned. When we do establish a standard or publish a standard, global cooperation is key. We need to understand the climate and the economic situation of the respective countries to put together a guideline. Therefore, it's important to make sure that there are many countries that would provide their feedback and voice their views. When I do go to international symposiums, we can see scholars from the Americas as well as from Asian countries and especially low-income countries. And I was able to feel for myself the necessity of such participation with the countries. I have a colleague at Waseda University, and through a global cooperation network, he is currently conducting a food nexus project. In the case of food security, countries vary in the situation. So when we do put together a global standard, cooperation amongst countries is of utmost importance. And with regard to the third presentation,
this is a presentation by Professor Park Chung-seok. It was a very impressive presentation. He talked about the efforts being carried out by the Korean government. The Korean government is currently focused on the smart city development as part of the New Deal, which was mentioned. Now, I am in charge of the Smart City project of Seoul National University as a director, and I received a lot of questions after becoming the director. One of the questions that I received, but I have trouble answering, is what is a smart city? And I'm sure that probably all of the presenters and the panelists, they might have different definitions to what a smart city is. But in my view, I think that if we try to distinguish advanced cities or state-of-the-art cities and smart cities, I think that smart cities are all about data. And so the smart green city, at the core of the smart green city, I think is water circulation. Within the water, how can the water circulate? And how can we make this into data to identify how the water is circulating and building a business model based on that? So I think that that kind of a strategy is at the core of the smart cities. And for that, indices are important. We need not only the indices, but at the same time, we need the methodology. and also long-term investment to make this possible. For example, if we're trying to build a new city, or if we're trying to improve and regenerate an existing city, we might set a target of water reutilization up to 20%. But the 20% standard, well, if that is suggested, then all the local municipalities might have different approaches to meeting that target of 20% water reutilization. So I had a chance to do a simulation and to reuse the water or saturation of water or to prevent population. Well, there could be an improvement of 20 to 25%. We did a lot of experiments and we were able to confirm that there was an improvement of 20 to 25%. So, in order to actually realize these indices, we really have to have concrete methodologies and we need long-term investments. Last but not least,
The fourth presentation was by Director Oh on Busan Eco Delta Smart City. Thank you for the informative presentation. I was enlightened by your presentation, and I was a part of the master plan process of Busan Eco Delta City, so I have high expectations for this project. And I think that if everything goes as planned, it would be like a utopia. But then, utopia in its meaning means it's not something that's possible. So I do want to know how this project unfolds. And as I was listening to the presentation, I was wondering who would live here. The infrastructure and the environment seems, well, optimal, but I wondered what kind of residents would be willing to reside here. It's a cutting-edge city, and in this smart village, this test bed, we will have our everyday citizens. We will see families, children that would say, I don't want to study, they want to just play online games. You might be seeing quarrels amongst couples. There may be accidents that would arise. So we will be seeing some typical everyday life scenes. So I wanted to, I'm not sure how that would unfold in this cutting edge city. You also talked about governance, but it would be important to monitor this in a detailed fashion. So going back to my original comment, I think we will need a data center at Busan Eco Delta City. I think we need a data center to accumulate all of this data and update the data. And you also emphasize the importance of jobs. And of course, jobs cannot be overemphasized. Even if we do have a wonderful cutting-edge optimal city, if the citizens cannot lead happy or productive lives, it would be of no use. So we need to understand what kind of jobs will be optimal in such a city, and I hope that the citizens can benefit from the jobs that would be created in this city. So thank you all for the presentations, and I would like to also thank the panelists for their insightful comments as well. Thank you.
네, 패널
yes, so we have just heard from the panelists, and I also would like to make one comment. I think that there are three aspects when we think about smart cities, and the first is the industrial aspect. So it's about energy or water or urban issues. And there is the industry-based approach. That is the first approach. Number two, there is a technical side. What is being emphasized, I think, right now is the ICT, being applied to the smart cities. And number three is about constructing the cities. Today we are talking about what is closely linked with building and constructing the cities. I think that was talked about a lot today. Now, in order well, the three have to be well harmonized and integrated together. And that is my expectation for the new smart cities in Korea. I think it is time for us to close.
All the panel speakers talk. During the presentation, any comment or the additional questions?
Yes,
If I may.
Yeah.
Yes. Bernard, go ahead.
It's time to close our talk session. Now I have to give the thanks to all the members. We'll have the closing session, and I would like to thank all speakers and the audience attended. And I think it has been a good time for Smart Green City. And finally, thank you to all attendants. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, Professor.
Yeah.
Sorry. Thank you.
Yeah, see you next meeting. Yeah, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
네, 감사합니다. 스마트 시티 표준.
Yes, thank you very much. We listened to what kind of efforts are needed for the standardization of smart cities, and also we heard the insightful views of the experts. I would like to once again thank the experts and also the moderator of the session. Thank you. Yes, thank you very much. We are here at the Smart Green City International Standardization Forum, and we were able to hear the insightful views of the presenters and also the panel discussants. In order to deal with the challenges of climate change and environmental issues, we need to further strengthen our cities, our smart cities, and we thank you for your endeavor in this process. Smart city is no longer something of the future, but I do believe that it is right now part of our everyday lives. It is becoming closer to our lives, and I would like to once again thank the participants, and with that, let us close this forum.